6 months after the documentary changed everything, Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor stood before his bathroom mirror practicing a speech he had written himself. His reflection showed a boy who had grown noticeably taller, his red hair now slightly longer, and his face showing the confidence that came with being 6 years old. "Hello, everyone," he said to his reflection, his voice clear and steady. "Thank you for being so nice about my giggle." Tomorrow would mark a milestone that no one had expected, Archie's first planned public appearance since the documentary aired. The occasion was a charity event for children's literacy, one of his mother's passionate causes, and Archie himself had asked to participate. Downstairs in the kitchen, Meghan was reviewing the event schedule with their team, while Harry helped their 2-year-old daughter Lilibet with her breakfast. The contrast between the children was striking. While Lilibet was content to babble happily to herself, Archie had become increasingly aware of the world's interest in his family. "Are you sure he's ready for this?" asked James Morrison, their head of communications, reviewing security protocols for the third time. Meghan looked up from the paperwork, her expression thoughtful. "He's been asking to help with the foundation's work for months. Yesterday, he told me he wanted to use his voice to help other children learn to read." The decision to allow Archie this public moment hadn't been made lightly. Since the documentary aired, the family had received thousands of letters from children around the world, many of them addressed specifically to Archie. Reading these messages had profound impact on the young prince, who began to understand that his voice could reach far beyond his family's garden. Archie appeared in the kitchen doorway, dressed in a smart navy suit that made him look older than his 6 years. His excitement was palpable, but there was also a seriousness in his demeanor that showed his understanding of the occasion's importance. "Mummy, I've been practicing," he announced, his voice carrying that same musical quality that had captivated millions. "Let's hear it then," Harry said, lifting Lilibet from her high chair and settling onto a stool to listen. Archie took a deep breath and began his speech, his words carefully chosen and his delivery remarkably polished for someone his age. "Reading is like having superpowers," he said, his voice growing stronger with each sentence. "When you can read, you can go anywhere and be anyone. That's what my mummy and daddy taught me." The family listened in silence, moved by Archie's genuine enthusiasm for literacy and his natural ability to communicate complex ideas in simple terms. His speech wasn't rehearsed in the traditional sense. It came from his own understanding and passion. "Books helped me when we moved to California," Archie continued, his voice taking on a more personal tone. "They made me feel brave when everything was new and different. I want every child to feel that brave too." Meghan wiped away a tear, overwhelmed by her son's empathy and maturity. Harry reached over to squeeze her hand, both parents recognizing that this moment represented a turning point in Archie's relationship with his public role. 2 hours later, the family arrived at the Los Angeles Central Library, where hundreds of children and families had gathered for the literacy event. The crowd's excitement was infectious, but there was also a respectful quality to their enthusiasm that suggested people understood the significance of Archie's first planned public appearance. Inside the library, Archie moved through the crowd with remarkable ease, stopping to talk with children and families, asking them about their favorite books and listening intently to their responses. His voice carried clearly through the library's main hall as he engaged in conversations that felt natural and unforced. "What's your favorite story?" Archie asked a shy 7-year-old girl who had been hesitant to approach. "I like stories about princesses," she whispered back. "Me too," Archie replied with a grin. "But I also like stories about dragons and adventures. Have you read any dragon books?" The conversation that followed was captured by photographers, but what they couldn't fully capture was the genuine connection Archie was making with each child he met. His voice carried no trace of condescension or artifice. He spoke to them as equals, sharing his own love of reading with infectious enthusiasm. Dr. Sarah Kim, the library's head of children's services, had been nervous about hosting such a high-profile event. But watching Archie interact with the children, she realized that his presence was elevating the entire occasion. Children who were typically shy in group settings were speaking up, asking questions, and sharing their own stories. "He has a gift," Dr. Kim whispered to her colleague. "He makes everyone feel heard." When it came time for Archie to deliver his speech, a hush fell over the assembled crowd. Standing behind a podium that had been adjusted for his height, Archie looked out at the sea of faces and smiled. His voice, when he began to speak, carried none of the nervousness that might be expected from such a young public speaker. "I want to tell you about the first book that made me cry," Archie began, departing from his prepared remarks to share something more personal. It was about a little elephant who missed his family. "I was missing my family in England, and that book helped me understand that it's okay to feel sad sometimes." The audience listened in complete silence, drawn in by Archie's honesty and vulnerability. His voice carried across the room with clarity and emotion, reaching not just the children present, but their parents and grandparents as well. "But you know what I learned?" Archie continued, his voice growing stronger. "Books don't just help us when we're sad. They help us when we're happy, when we're curious, when we want to learn about dinosaurs or space, or how to bake cookies." A ripple of laughter went through the crowd at this last observation, and Archie's face lit up with delight at their response. "My mummy says that every book is a doorway," he continued. "And my daddy says that reading makes us brave. I think they're both right. So today, I want us all to walk through some doorways together." What followed was an hour of storytelling, with Archie reading from several children's books while engaging his young audience in conversations about the stories. His voice brought characters to life, changing tone and pace to match different moments in the narratives. The most remarkable moment came when a young boy in the audience raised his hand and asked, "Prince Archie, do you ever get scared?" Archie paused thoughtfully before answering, his voice gentle but confident. "Yes, I do get scared sometimes. Everyone does. But you know what helps me? Talking to my family about it. And reading stories about other people who were brave even when they were scared." The honesty of his response resonated through the room. Parents looked at each other with amazement, recognizing wisdom that seemed far beyond Archie's years. As the event continued, social media was already exploding with videos and photos from the appearance. The hashtag #ArchieReads was trending worldwide within minutes, with people sharing their own favorite childhood books and memories of learning to read. Back in London, Sir Edmund Whitmore watched a live stream of the event from his palace office, his earlier skepticism giving way to grudging admiration. Whatever concerns he had about young royals in the spotlight, he couldn't deny that Archie's appearance was generating unprecedented positive attention for charitable causes and childhood education. "The donations are pouring in," his assistant reported, monitoring various charity websites that were benefiting from the increased attention. Children's literacy organizations across the Commonwealth are reporting massive spikes in support. In her hotel room in Los Angeles, Sarah Chun was once again documenting a historic moment in Archie's young life. But this time felt different from the documentary 6 months earlier. Then, she had been capturing a private family moment that happened to be shared with the world. Today, she was witnessing Archie's conscious choice to use his voice and platform for something greater than himself. "This is extraordinary," she murmured to her cameraman. "He's not just a royal child anymore. He's becoming a young leader." As the event drew to a close, Archie was approached by the same shy little girl who had spoken with him earlier about princess stories. She handed him a drawing she had made during the storytelling session, a picture of a boy with red hair reading a book to a group of smiling children. "This is for you, Prince Archie," she said quietly. Archie knelt down to her level, accepting the drawing with visible emotion. "This is beautiful," he said, his voice warm with gratitude. "What's your name?" "Emma," she whispered. "Thank you, Emma. I'm going to keep this forever." The interaction, captured by photographers, would become one of the most shared images from the entire event. But, for Archie, the moment was simply about connecting with another child who shared his love of stories. On the drive home, Archie sat quietly in his car's seat, processing the day's events. His parents could see him in the rearview mirror, still holding Emma's drawing and occasionally smiling to himself. "How do you feel about today?" Meghan asked gently. "Good," Archie replied thoughtfully. "Really good. I think I want to do more events like this." "Even though there were lots of people watching?" Harry asked. "The people were nice," Archie said. "And the children really wanted to talk about books. That made me happy." His voice carried the satisfaction of someone who had found their purpose, even at such a young age. The shy little boy who had giggled in his family's garden 6 months ago was evolving into a young person who understood the power of his voice and wanted to use it to help others. That evening, as Harry read bedtime stories to both children, Archie interrupted with a question that would stay with his parents for years to come. "Daddy, when I grow up, will I still be able to help children like I did today?" "If you want to," Harry replied carefully. "You can use your voice to help people in whatever way feels right to you." "Good," Archie said decisively, "because I really like making other children happy." As he drifted off to sleep, Archie's voice could be heard softly reciting lines from the stories they had shared earlier, his words carrying the contentment of a child who had discovered something important about himself and his place in the world. The documentary had introduced the world to Archie's Giggle, but the literacy event had revealed something even more significant, a young voice that could inspire, comfort, and bring people together. The frenzy that had begun with innocent laughter had evolved into something deeper and more meaningful. The emergence of a young royal who understood that his greatest power lay not in his title, but in his ability to connect with others through words, stories, and genuine care. The world would continue to watch Archie grow, but now they were watching not just a royal child, but a young person who had chosen to use his voice as a force for good. His giggle had captured their attention, but his heart had won their respect. 3 weeks after Sarah Chen's documentary aired, the response was beyond anything the royal family could have imagined. Social media platforms exploded with clips of Archie's giggle, his conversations with his parents, and his innocent observations about the world around him. The hashtag Archie's Giggle had become the top trending topic globally, with millions of people sharing their reactions to hearing the young prince's voice for the first time. Rebecca Martinez sat in her small apartment in Madrid, watching the documentary for the 5th time. As the president of the largest Harry and Meghan fan club in Spain, she had been eagerly awaiting any new content featuring the family. When Archie's giggle filled her living room through the television speakers, tears of joy streamed down her face. "He sounds exactly like Harry did when he was little," she whispered to herself, remembering old footage she had seen of Prince Harry as a child. Rebecca immediately opened her laptop and began typing a post for her fan club's website. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she described the emotional impact of hearing Archie speak so naturally and confidently. Within minutes of posting, hundreds of comments poured in from fellow fans around the world, all expressing similar sentiments of joy and gratitude. In Tokyo, Yuki Tanaka was preparing for her morning commute when she checked her phone and saw that the documentary had finally been made available with Japanese subtitles. She quickly called in sick to work, unable to concentrate on anything else. For the past 3 years, Yuki had maintained a blog dedicated to the Sussex family, translated into Japanese for fans across Asia. As she watched Archie interact with his parents, Yuki was struck by how bilingual he seemed, effortlessly switching between slightly different pronunciations depending on which parent he was addressing. His voice carried the musical quality that many children develop when they grow up in multilingual households. "Mummy, can we call Grandma Diana's friend?" Archie had asked at one point in the documentary, referring to one of his mother's close friends who had also been close to Princess Diana. The mention of Diana, though innocent and natural from a child's perspective, sent waves of emotion through the royal watching community. Yuki paused the video and sat in silence for several minutes, overwhelmed by the connection between past and present that Archie's simple question represented. Meanwhile, in Buckingham Palace, there was considerably less enthusiasm about the public reaction. Sir Edmund Whitmore, the Queen's private secretary, sat across from his assistant, reviewing newspaper headlines and social media analytics with growing concern. "The engagement numbers are unprecedented," his assistant reported, sliding a tablet across the mahogany desk. The documentary has been viewed over 200 million times across all platforms. The clip of Archie's giggle alone has been shared 50 million times. Sir Edmund frowned as he scrolled through the data. While the coverage was overwhelmingly positive, the sheer volume of attention being focused on a 5-year-old child made him deeply uncomfortable. The palace had always been protective of royal children, and this level of global fascination seemed to cross every boundary they had carefully established over the decades. Have we heard from the Sussex team? Sir Edmund asked. They've released a statement expressing gratitude for the positive response while requesting that people respect Archie's privacy going forward, his assistant replied. But the momentum seems to be building rather than subsiding. Indeed, the momentum was extraordinary. Television networks around the world were running special programs analyzing every moment of the documentary. Child development experts were being interviewed about Archie's advanced verbal skills and confident demeanor. Speech analysts were breaking down his accent and predicting how it might evolve as he grew older. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, a child psychologist at Cambridge University, found herself in high demand as media outlets sought professional commentary on Archie's development. From her office overlooking the university courtyard, she fielded call after call from journalists wanting to understand what the documentary revealed about the young prince's upbringing. What we're seeing is a child who feels completely secure in his environment, Dr. Hartwell explained during a live television interview. His voice carries no anxiety or self-consciousness. He's clearly been raised in an atmosphere where his thoughts and questions are valued and encouraged. The interviewer pressed for more details about Archie's unique position as a royal child being raised partially outside the traditional system. The interesting thing, Dr. Hartwell continued, is that Archie seems to understand his family's significance without being burdened by it. When he asks about climbing the tree his father climbed, or using the family tea set, he's connecting with history in a very natural way. There's no sense of pressure or performance. Back in California, Harry and Meghan were experiencing the aftermath of their decision to allow the documentary firsthand. Their Montecito home had become a fortress, with increased security measures and constant surveillance from paparazzi, hoping to capture more footage of Archie. Meghan sat in her home office, scrolling through messages from friends and supporters around the world. The response had been overwhelmingly positive, but the intensity was concerning. She had always known that any glimpse of Archie would generate significant interest, but the global obsession was beyond anything she had anticipated. "We need to be more careful," she said to Harry as he joined her in the office. "The reaction has been wonderful, but it's also massive." Harry nodded, understanding her concern. He had grown up in the spotlight and knew how quickly positive attention could become overwhelming pressure. The last thing he wanted was for Archie to feel the weight of global expectation at such a young age. "Maybe we should arrange a follow-up interview," Harry suggested. Something to channel this energy in a positive direction while also setting boundaries. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of Archie's voice from the garden, where he was playing with their security team's children who had come for a visit. His laughter carried through the open window, the same infectious giggle that had captured the world's attention. "Daddy, watch this," Archie called out, preparing to perform some elaborate playground maneuver. Both parents moved to the window to watch their son, and Meghan smiled despite her concerns. Whatever challenges the attention might bring, seeing Archie so happy and carefree made everything worthwhile. Meanwhile, charitable organizations that Harry and Meghan supported were reporting unprecedented increases in donations and volunteer applications. The Archwell Foundation's website had crashed twice due to traffic volume, as people inspired by the family's obvious happiness sought ways to support their causes. Jennifer Walsh, the foundation's communications director, was working around the clock to handle the surge in interest. "We've received more inquiries in the past week than we typically get in 6 months, she reported during a staff meeting. People are specifically mentioning Archie's joy as motivation for getting involved. The ripple effects extended far beyond charitable giving. Children's clothing brands were reporting massive sales increases for items similar to what Archie had worn in the documentary. Publishers were scrambling to meet demand for the books that Harry had been shown reading to his son. Most significantly, conversations about modern parenting and child development were happening in households around the world, inspired by the glimpse into how Harry and Meghan were raising their son. Maria Santos, a mother of 3 in Brazil, gathered her own children around their tablet to watch clips from the documentary together. "See how Archie asks questions?" she told her kids. "That's how we learn about the world." Her 5-year-old daughter immediately started imitating Archie's inquisitive style, asking detailed questions about everything from the food they were eating to the pictures on their walls. The documentary had inadvertently sparked countless family conversations about curiosity, confidence, and the importance of children feeling heard. In London's primary schools, teachers reported that children were asking more questions about the royal family and expressing interest in traditions they had never noticed before. Archie's natural curiosity about his family's history had inspired other children to explore their own family stories. Mrs. Patricia Hendricks, a teacher at a primary school in North London, observed the phenomenon firsthand. "The children are suddenly fascinated by family traditions," she told her colleagues. "They're going home and asking their grandparents about old photographs and family stories. It's created this wonderful intergenerational dialogue." The documentary had also prompted discussions about children growing up in unusual circumstances. Parents of children with unique challenges or high-profile situations found comfort in seeing how normal and grounded Archie appeared despite his extraordinary circumstances. As the weeks passed, the initial frenzy began to settle into a steady stream of continued interest. Fan communities organized virtual watch parties, sharing their favorite moments and discussing what they hoped to see from the family in the future. The global response had proven that people were hungry for authentic, positive content about the royal family. Archie's voice and Giggle had provided exactly that, a reminder that beneath all the titles and protocols, this was simply a family trying to raise their child with love, wisdom, and joy. The question now was how to balance the public's obvious affection for Archie with the family's need for privacy and normalcy. The documentary had opened a door that would be difficult to close, but it had also demonstrated the positive impact that authentic royal content could have on people around the world. As Harry tucked Archie into bed that night, listening to his son recount the day's adventures in the garden, he realized that regardless of global attention or media analysis, moments like these remained untouched and precious. Archie's voice, whether heard by millions or just by his parents, would always be the sound of pure childhood wonder. The morning sun cast golden rays across the Windsor estate as 5-year-old Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor raced through the gardens, his laughter echoing off the ancient stone walls. His red hair caught the light as he chased after a butterfly, completely unaware that millions of people around the world were desperate to hear that very sound. Sarah Chun adjusted her camera lens from behind the hedge, her heart racing with anticipation. As a royal correspondent for the British Broadcasting Corporation, she had covered countless royal events. But this assignment felt different. The palace had granted unprecedented access to document a day in the life of the young prince, and Sarah knew this footage would be watched by fans across the globe. Prince Harry emerged from the main house, dressed casually in jeans and a polo shirt. His face lit up when he spotted his son near the rose garden. The transformation in Harry's demeanor was remarkable. Gone was the formal prince the world usually saw, replaced by a relaxed father enjoying a quiet moment with his child. "Archie, come here, buddy," Harry called out, his voice carrying the warmth that had made him so beloved by the public. The little boy turned and ran toward his father, his face beaming with joy. As he approached, he began chattering excitedly about the butterfly he had been chasing, his voice clear and animated in a way that would soon captivate millions. Daddy, did you see the orange one? It was huge like this." Archie stretched his small arms wide, his British accent tinged with the slight American inflection he had picked up during his early years in California. Sarah held her breath as she recorded the interaction. This was exactly what royal fans had been hoping to hear, Archie's natural, unguarded voice as he spoke with his father. The boy's speech was articulate and confident, displaying none of the shyness often associated with royal children in public settings. Meghan appeared in the doorway, wearing a simple sundress and carrying a tray of sandwiches. Her smile was radiant as she watched her husband and son together. The family dynamic was exactly what their supporters had always insisted it would be: loving, natural, and refreshingly normal. "Lunch is ready," she announced, setting the tray down on a wooden picnic table that had been placed under an oak tree. Archie immediately perked up at the mention of food and bounded over to his mother. "Mummy, can we eat outside? Please, please, please." His voice rose with excitement, and he added a little giggle at the end that would later become the most replayed moment of the entire documentary. That giggle, spontaneous, infectious, and utterly charming, captured something magical about childhood innocence. It was the sound of pure happiness, completely unfiltered and genuine. Sarah knew immediately that this moment would become legendary among royal watchers. The family settled around the picnic table, and Harry began telling Archie stories about his own childhood adventures on the estate. As he spoke, Archie listened intently, occasionally interrupting with questions or comments that showcased his quick wit and curious nature. "Did you really climb that big tree, Daddy?" Archie asked, pointing to an enormous oak that had stood on the grounds for centuries. "I did indeed," Harry replied with a grin. "And your grandfather wasn't very pleased about it." Archie's eyes widened with delight. "Can I climb it too?" Meghan and Harry exchanged amused glances. "Maybe when you're a bit older," Meghan said diplomatically. "How much older?" Archie persisted, his voice taking on the negotiating tone that parents everywhere would recognize. "We'll see," Harry said, which prompted another one of Archie's delightful giggles. As the afternoon progressed, Sarah continued documenting the family's interactions. She captured Archie helping his mother tend to a small vegetable garden they had planted together, his voice full of pride as he showed off the tomatoes they were growing. "Look, Mummy, this one's getting red," he exclaimed, gently touching a ripening tomato. "Very good, my love," Meghan replied, her American accent a perfect complement to her son's unique blend of British and American pronunciation. The naturalness of their conversation was striking. There was no pretense or formality, just a mother and son sharing a love of gardening and spending time together outdoors. Archie's commentary was constant and endearing, filled with observations about the plants, the insects they encountered, and plans for what they might cook with their harvest. Later, the family moved indoors for tea time, a tradition that Harry was eager to pass on to his son. Archie sat at the formal dining table, his legs swinging as he waited for the proper tea service to be arranged. "Tell me about the cups, Daddy," Archie requested, his voice taking on a more serious tone as he examined the fine china. Harry began explaining the history of the tea set, which had been in the royal family for generations. Archie listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions that demonstrated his understanding of family history and tradition. "Will I use these cups when I'm grown up?" Archie asked. "Perhaps you will," Harry replied, his voice soft with emotion. The moment was significant for multiple reasons. It showed Archie's connection to his royal heritage while also highlighting the family's commitment to maintaining traditions in their own unique way. The boy's voice carried no burden of expectation, just natural curiosity about his family's past. As evening approached, the family gathered in the library for story time. This had become a cherished daily ritual, with Harry and Meghan taking turns reading to their son. Tonight, it was Harry's turn, and he had chosen a book about adventure and courage. Archie curled up next to his father on a comfortable sofa, his voice occasionally chiming in to ask questions about the story or to make predictions about what might happen next. His engagement with the narrative was complete and enthusiastic. "Will the prince be brave enough?" Archie asked at a crucial moment in the tale. "What do you think?" Harry asked back, encouraging his son to think critically about the story. "I think he will be," Archie said confidently, "because sometimes being scared is okay if you do the right thing anyway." The wisdom in his young voice was remarkable. At only 5 years old, Archie was already demonstrating the kind of thoughtful perspective that would serve him well throughout his life, royal or otherwise. As the day drew to a close, Sarah reviewed the footage she had captured. The material was extraordinary, hours of genuine family moments that showed Archie not as a distant royal figure, but as a real child with a real personality. His voice carried through every moment, sometimes excited, sometimes thoughtful, but always authentic. The giggle that had captured her attention earlier would indeed become the highlight of the entire piece. In slow motion, frame by frame, it perfectly encapsulated the joy and freedom that Harry and Meghan had worked so hard to provide for their son. But, more than that, Archie's voice throughout the day had revealed a child who was confident, curious, and genuinely happy. He spoke with the ease of someone who knew he was loved and supported, regardless of his unique circumstances. The footage would soon be edited into a documentary that would be broadcast worldwide. But Sarah knew that the real story wasn't about royal protocol or public expectations. It was about a family who had found a way to create normal, loving moments in the most abnormal of circumstances. As she packed up her equipment, Sarah could still hear Archie's laughter echoing in the distance. Harry was giving his son a piggyback ride around the garden, and the boys' delighted squeals of happiness were the perfect end to a perfect day. The world would soon hear that laughter too, and Sarah was certain it would bring smiles to millions of faces. In a time when royal news was often filled with controversy and speculation, Archie's pure joy would be a welcome reminder of what really mattered: love, family, and the simple pleasure of being a child.